How cool is it to have a rich girlfriend? The end of the world is coming, fruits and vegetables, buy them. Medicines and supplies, buy them. Villas and tanks, buy them. Wait, my girlfriend has awakened a super large space? Hee, this is much cooler than the double-door refrigerator in the comics. My rich girlfriend has awakened the ability to predict the future. She saw that a few months later, the zombie virus broke out and the city was reduced to ruins. Xiao Ji, we have to bring your parents to the villa. Zhu Yu looked solemn. The melon seeds in my hand fell to the ground, and I got into my girlfriend's luxury car. Unexpectedly, my parents accepted this absurd thing quite quickly. Would it be bad for us to move there like this? My father Yi Dazhuang was indeed a little worried. Dad, this is the best measure that Zhu Yu and I have discussed. I told my parents the reasons one by one. Okay, Zhu Yu, thank you for taking me in. You and my little Ji are good friends. Auntie and uncle also treat you as their own child. Auntie has no other skills except cooking delicious food. Leave the cooking to auntie. My mother Yan Pingping sighed and agreed. We hit it off immediately and left as soon as we said we would. We returned to my bestie's house with big bags and small bags. Well, seeing that my father's mouth opened wider than mine when he first entered the villa, I nodded with satisfaction. The next day, the four of us began to prepare for Doomsday. Stockpiling. My father and Ziyu selected 2 cars with good performance and went to a professional car dealer for reinforcement. My mother and I went to major supermarkets in the city to buy the necessary supplies. The most basic rice, flour, and oil are indispensable. My mother took out the bank card she had treasured for many years and waved her hand, buy it. All kinds of canned food with long shelf life, instant food products, self-heating hot pot. All kinds of flavors are available, buy it. The most important thing, medicine. No one can save you without the most basic medicine in the Doomsday. Buy a lot. Before the Doomsday comes, buy some fresh fruits and vegetables. My mother is a good cook, so we will eat them for a few days. In addition, there are survival tools, batteries of various models, strong flashlights, small generators, power banks, toothbrushes, towels, soaps, shampoo, shower gel, and the most important sanitary napkins for girls. Everything that may be used in the Doomsday was swept away by us. We went to several large department stores one after another, and the supplies were transported to a warehouse far away from my girlfriend's house. When unloading, when others asked about it, I said that I was planning to open a supermarket. At night, when it was quiet, my father drove the rented truck to the villa one by one. Hi. Xiao Ji, you didn't see us today. We went to reinforce the car. The reinforcement fee is so expensive. Your father has never seen so much money in his life. People asked me why we made it so strong, but Xiao Yu was smart and said that racing is risky and we should prepare early. My father Yi Dazhuang was very excited and told us what happened in the car dealership today. Although Xiao Ji and Auntie have bought a lot of supplies, we still have to stock up. When the Doomsday breaks out, supplies will definitely be scrambled for. We must be fully prepared. In the months before the Doomsday, we may need to hold our ground. Zhu Yu took out a few cards from her bag and handed them to me while speaking. Money should not have much effect in the Doomsday. Money will depreciate at the beginning of the Doomsday, so we have to make the most of the money we have. Continue to collect supplies in surrounding cities, otherwise it will be inevitable that there will be trouble in this city. In addition, the villa needs to be reinforced. People's hearts are unpredictable. In the face of life and death, anything can happen. I took the card and put forward my own ideas. Okay, I'll ask different workers to renovate the villa tomorrow. Zhu Yu nodded and agreed to my proposal. After a week of intense preparation, the villa was reinforced and most of the supplies were ready. 3 in the evening, I slept in Zhu Yu's room. There was no light in the room, and the breeze blew the curtains, and I could vaguely see the lights outside. If you listen carefully, you can hear a few dogs barking. We have stored a lot of food, but in the end of the world, we can only eat fast food, and there will be no snacks after eating. This is not fair to my stomach. I lay on the bed with a frown. Go to sleep first. The most important thing now is to survive. We haven't passed the first level yet. Zhu Yu tucked the corner of the quilt for me and comforted me. A dreamless night. When I woke up the next day, Zhu Yu looked stunned, and I reached out and poked her. What's wrong? Zhu Yu put the pillow in her hand, and when I was confused by her behavior, the pillow disappeared. Oh my god! I exclaimed. Yes, it was so smooth and natural that Zhu Yu opened her space ability after a nap. To celebrate Zhu Yu's ability, we once again walked around the city. God help me, your space is actually static, which means that the food you put in will not spoil. I laughed heartily, hugged Zhu Yu's thighs tightly, and blinked my eyes. Buy whatever you want. Zhu Yu smiled indulgently. Coming to the snacks that I couldn't buy more because of the previous stockpiling, I waved my little hand and pointed at the mountains. 10 boxes of QQ candy, 20 boxes of Wanzai milk, 30 boxes of potato chips. Noticing that I might, maybe, probably want a little too much, I suddenly considered whether Zhu Yu's space would not be able to fit it. I looked at her tentatively. The space is very large. A light sentence dispelled my concerns. It's just like what my mother said, as soon as I take off my pants, Zhu Yu knows what kind of fart I fart. Long live Mu Ziyu. 4 time passed quickly, and it was the day before Ziyu predicted the end of the world. None of us slept well, and we came to the second floor lobby in tacit understanding, silently waiting for everything that was about to happen. When the clock struck 12, a few screams suddenly came from the relatively quiet street. The end of the world is coming. I leaned on the window and looked out. There was still a lot of traffic during the day, but the extremely noisy street had become devastated. People were running around screaming. In a car, a figure seemed to be feasting. Around him, fragments of inhuman body parts were scattered, and blood was flowing out of the car. I guarantee with my 5.3 vision that this is definitely the terrifying zombie in the novel. There were waves of wailing, and the one who was bitten the moment before also joined the zombie team the next second. Maybe 10 minutes later, this street will become a zombie world. My mother is a timid person. Seeing this scene, she had already rushed to the bathroom to vomit. My father hurried to pour water for my mother. From this point of view, Zuyu's mental state is the best, except that her face is a little ugly. I don't know what the situation will be next. We can only stay in the villa and wait and see. I no longer pay attention to the cruel scenes on the street and turn my head away. Fortunately, Zuyu predicted the coming of the Doomsday in advance. If it weren't for Zuyu's prediction, our lives would be frozen in 2 months. I also hope that the anonymous warning we spread on the internet before can play a role. The most obvious disadvantage of the arrival of the Doomsday is the water and electricity outage. Fortunately, we bought liquefied gas and enough water. Miss Yang, who had been vomiting for a long time, was the chef, and a few of us helped. A rich and delicious meal was finally ready. I hope we can live a long time. This is everyone's wish. We didn't go out and played mahjong in the evening. When I was halfway through the game, I felt hot all over and fainted not long after. The first thought I had when I fainted was, I'm not going to die like this. In novels, people with fever usually turn into zombies or awaken special powers. Zuyu didn't react when she awakened, but I died before I even started to play badly. This is worse than before. I can live for at least 2 months. In my dream, I felt like I was burned by a raging fire. When I opened my eyes the next day, I first confirmed that I was still conscious. I jumped out of bed like a monkey. The 3 people who heard the noise came to my room. Seeing that I was safe, Miss Yan's eyes turned red, and Mr. Yi Dajuan was relieved. Xiao Zhi, check your body quickly to see if there is anything unusual. Zuyu walked around my body and spoke softly. I tried to fiddle with my body to see what special powers I had. Wind, water, fire, the most powerful, lightning, and the standard healing of the heroine. 5 None. I was silent when I saw the 1 square meter of space in my sea of consciousness waving at me in a friendly way. What? Are you sure you are not kidding me? Zuyu was also anxious when she saw my distorted expression, and my expression kept changing. Xiao Zhi, what's wrong? Something went wrong, my supernatural power. I was in a trance and seemed to have returned to the scene when I found out that my best friend was a rich woman. Zuyu and my parents were all worried. Space system, 1 square meter. What is this? Ah. Since you have you, why do you have G? God, did you hurt my young heart to show that she is your own daughter? I cried with my head in my hands. Is she always like this? My father looked at me and twitched his mouth and looked at my mother. Humph, it's true, your own daughter. My mother pulled my ears and told me to shut up. After hiding in the villa for more than a month, there seemed to be no people on the street, and there were fewer zombies wandering around. Because the door was strong enough, the zombies didn't find us at all. Our lives didn't seem to have changed at all, and everything we ate was delicious. The years were peaceful while others were on their doomsday escape. However, the 4 of us would still take turns to keep watch in case of any changes. In this month, my space has changed a little. I have a small space of 1 square meter, and I stuffed a few small tomatoes in the space, taking a few out from time to time to eat. When I took the small tomatoes out of the space again, I found that the tomato seeds had sprouted on the ground. I can actually grow vegetables in my 1 square meter space. After continuous experiments, I found that although the space of 1 square meter is not large, the crops mature very quickly. Almost a week after the seeds are put in, they will mature. It turns out that I got the script of the farming girl no. But who can only grow 1 square meter of farming? 6. When I was bored and secretly picked my feet, my mother found the situation on the 2nd floor balcony. A dilapidated car drove crookedly towards our house, and 2 men and 1 woman got out of the car. Zuyu and I walked downstairs. Duang duang duang. The door of the villa was knocked, and the woman's weak cry for help reached our ears. Please, I have a baby in my belly. I haven't eaten for 3 days. Please let me in and give me something to eat. I looked out through the peephole and saw a woman with a slightly bulging belly outside the door. We don't have anything to eat. You can go to the nearby supermarkets to have a look. Maybe there are some leftover supplies. Zuyu frowned and reminded. No, I just came from there and there is nothing to eat. Please, I can't survive as a woman outside. You are kind people, open the door for me. The woman's voice became sharper and sharper. Those 2 men are lying in ambush outside. What? Do you want to rob me? After receiving the signal that the 2 men upstairs from my mother were missing, I immediately retorted and exposed the woman's obvious conspiracy. After a few seconds of stunned, the woman's face was hideous for a while, and she walked away. Unwillingly. There are too many people with ill intentions in the Doomsday, and it is hard to guard against them. If you are not careful, you will fall down and even lose your life. Today, from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m., I am on guard. Now it is 3 a.m. I squatted on the balcony on the 2nd floor and looked into the distance. The night was very dark, and the dark clouds covered the stars tightly. I suddenly noticed that someone was sneaking towards the villa and soon reached the gate. I went downstairs and walked to the door. After awakening my superpowers, my hearing has improved a lot. The rustling sound of clothes, the sound of the door being gently fiddled with, and the uncontrollable panting all reflect that someone is outside the door. And there is more than one person outside the door. 15 minutes later, the excited panting outside the door continued to increase. The door opened. 7 stick. I heard the man's angry curse. I took out the ripened tomatoes from the space again and stuffed them into my mouth. It seemed that the man who opened the lock had broken through. If the door of the villa was not special, I might not have had the courage to approach. The main door that the man pried open was just the most ordinary first door of the villa. There were second and third doors inside the first door. The second and third doors were customized by professional masters at a high price before, and top locksmiths could not open them. Hey! Maybe my sneer was heard outside. There was silence outside the door for a few seconds, and then another man's vicious voice sounded. There are only 2 girls like you in the villa. I advise you to be sensible and open the door. Otherwise, when I use my superpowers to blast open your door, it will be too late. The man's voice was proud and arrogant. 1 month after the Doomsday, there are not many people with superpowers. He does have the capital to be proud. However, I don't believe he can blast open these 2 special doors. The abilities of zombies and superpowers are proportional. The current zombies have low intelligence and only have instinctive biting skills. I guess this person's superpowers may be like Drizzle. However, it is not a good situation for us to let him be so arrogant. Once more people know that we have stored supplies here, we will be more dangerous. I must think of a way to get rid of these people. A light flashed in my mind, and I went into the storage room on the first floor and took out the king of music. Swanna. Let me send you off, Zuyu. Parents, sorry to disturb your sweet dreams. As soon as the Swanna came out, everything was silent. Ciao. The few people outside didn't expect me to be so ruthless. They kept cursing and saying whatever dirty things they wanted, giving me a solid lesson in Chinese quintessence. While listening to the class, my body and mind were still immersed in the pleasant performance. I saw my parents and Zuyu coming downstairs. Several people quickly realized the situation in front of them. Are you doing human things? My father covered his face, but the twitching corners of his mouth revealed that he was in a good mood. The Swanna is really not covered. The sound is particularly far in the silent night. Soon, there was a commotion outside. The zombies came quickly. The zombies that followed the sound quickly locked onto the few people who were trying to run away. After a series of screams, the world was quiet again. Most of the zombies did not find other targets and left in a swaying manner. A few zombies continued to search unwillingly. It seems that some zombies have wisdom, which is not good news. Have a good night. 8. My mother cooked a table full of delicious dishes, including shredded pork with fish sauce, scrambled eggs with tomatoes, steamed pork with rice flour, fish head with chopped pepper, pork ribs and beef brisket soup. As a coriander lover, I always order coriander with everything I eat. I washed a handful of coriander grown in a small space, tore it up and put it in my own bowl. It smelled so good. It smelled so good that I decided to promote coriander to the whole country. I don't know who doesn't eat coriander. Zuyu frowned all day, and I saw that something was wrong with her. What's wrong? We may have to move away. Zuyu paused, then said, I made another prediction. In a month, the first wave of zombies will come here. We must go to the base built by the government. It will be very safe there. Well, then we need to leave as soon as possible. The capital is not close to us. We may encounter unknown troubles on the road. We must take precautions. My father thought carefully and said in a heavy voice, I can no longer enjoy this comfortable life of sleeping in, Mom. Mom. Let's cook something after dinner. The journey is long and it is very uncomfortable to have a lonely mouth. When it is ready, we will put Zuyu's space in it and her place will not be damaged. After crying and shouting, I stood up again. After I finished speaking, the idea of whether Zuyu's space would smell bad suddenly popped up in my mind. I rejected it randomly, shook my head, and continued to beg my mother. When the disaster is coming, why are you only thinking about eating? My mother was speechless, but she still agreed. My mother and I prepared the meal in full swing, while Zuyu and my father went to check the car. 2 cars were reinforced at the car dealership before, but we only chose one this time. The other one was originally intended to be used for supplies, but now we both have space. Although my space can be ignored, supplies are only placed in the first car to cover up. Another reason is that my parents do not have superpowers. In order to prevent accidents and fall behind in the middle of the journey, the 4 of us chose to squeeze into the same car. We chose an extended off-road vehicle from the 2 cars. This kind of car has good performance and is not afraid of mountain roads. It was the first time we walked out of this new world. 9. My mother and I sat in the middle row of seats in the car. My father was driving. Zuyu sat in the co-pilot and used a map to identify the route. I took out snacks and cherry tomatoes from the space and stuffed them into my mouth. I kept chewing in my mouth and crossed my legs to watch my mother scratching her fingers with a knife next to me. Some lucky people have evolved superpowers one after another, and humans are no longer just hiding. TSK, in these 2 weeks, my mom, Miss Yan, has awakened a special power that makes me drool, the healing system. My dad actually has some talent, awakening the wood system and the earth system. Oh, the heroine, that is, classmate Mu Ziyu, has awakened the wind system and the ice system one after another. Note that it is not the water system, but the mutated ice system. I bit my back teeth and resisted the urge to throw them out. Well, I am the most useless, playing house with my 1 square meter giant space. With this configuration, I can only play badly. Gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, TSK, the only thing missing is gold and fire. If you have the ability, give me another gold and fire. I opened the skylight that was converted into a steel sliding cover. To be honest, I opened the skylight and gave the sky a middle finger. Our journey was relatively smooth. We encountered a group of people with bad intentions and zombies that followed the smell, but we solved them all. From killing a zombie for a long time to being able to kill several at a time, we grew step by step, and the 4 of us seemed to become less weak. Closing the skylight, I watched my mother's wounds heal again and again, and my heart was itching. I snatched my mother's knife and stabbed my middle finger. Blood gushed out, and then I couldn't wait to stretch my hand to my mother. My mother glanced at me and said nothing. She silently placed her hand on my finger, and the crystal light bloomed from her hand. My little wound itched. When the light faded, only the blood that had not dried up was left on my finger. Awesome. I gave my mother a thumbs up, and when I was about to praise her again, a sudden break blocked the words I was about to say. There are many zombies ahead. Looking from the rearview mirror, my father's face was not good. Groups of zombies blocked our way, and the blood and body parts in front of us all indicated that a tragedy had just happened. Here. Crash. Zuyu's voice was cold. Bang. My father stepped on the accelerator and rushed forward, knocking away some zombies blocking the road. The sticky yellow juice of the zombies showed that they were no longer human. The collision was effective, and a breakthrough was created in the front, but then, the car stalled. My father slapped the steering wheel angrily and tried to start again. But unfortunately, he failed. The zombies surrounded us. Get out of the car, otherwise we will be trapped in the car. I made a judgment on the situation in front of me. Zuyu nodded. Xiaoju, you follow me, and Auntie follows Uncle. You two have no ability to protect yourself. Auntie has healing and follows Uncle to help him treat at any time. I have many special abilities and can protect Xiaoju. 2 people in a group. If we are separated, we will go to the base to meet up. After a simple distribution, the 4 of us got off the car. The strong smell of blood and the stench of the zombies mixed into an indescribable special smell. I suffered a huge shock as soon as I got off the car. The zombies smelled the human smell and quickened their pace. We were also ready for the battle. Under Ziyu's protection, I held the short-handled hand axe in my hand and began to stab, catching one and chopping one. During this time on the road, I also got off the car to kill many zombies. The axe became more and more handy in my hand, and the progress became faster. However, compared with Ziyu and my father's fighting mode, I killed less than 1/10 of the zombies they killed. Swoosh! A slight breeze blew past my ears, as if something rushed past my neck. I turned my head sharply and saw a scene that made me grit my teeth. Ziyu, get out of the way! I shouted. A slender zombie rushed towards Ziyu. The zombie was faster than other zombies. Its arms were like branches hanging on the ground, but they were strangely long. The zombie quickly approached Ziyu. Ziyu turned around when she heard my shout and faced it directly. Ziyu's pupils shrank suddenly. When she raised her hand to use her skills, it was too late. No! I screamed and rushed towards Ziyu. My father and mother also rushed to this place, but they were still too slow. 11 When I rushed to Ziyu and was still 2 steps away, Ziyu did not fall in a pool of blood. Click! A crystal core fell at Ziyu's feet and then disappeared. The zombie stopped its steps, as if it was stunned for a few seconds, and its body collapsed. The zombie that pounced on Ziyu had its head split open. I did it. I actually got the special use of my 1 square meter space in a critical situation. My 1 square meter space can not only grow vegetables, but also seem to be able to open the zombies' heads. I realized it after 3 seconds. My space seems to be able to clamp the zombies' temples and smash out their crystal cores. It even comes with a function of automatically recovering the crystal cores that kill zombies. What a broken setting. I was speechless for 3 seconds, and then I silently despised myself. What are we waiting for? Let's do it. With this skill, the 4 of us are like fish in water, and the progress of eliminating zombies has accelerated again. The roar of the car came from behind, and the sound of gunfire rang out, and the zombies around us fell to the ground. One after another. It's the army. There are about 5 or 6 military vehicles, and a man got off the first vehicle. He was wearing a military uniform, with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. His tanned face revealed a few traces of coldness. He was 1.8 meters tall and looked decent. I didn't like him for no reason. When the man saw Ziyu beside me, his eyes lit up slightly and he strode towards us. I pouted, no way, the heroine's crush is coming. Ziyu, are you hurt? The man looked worried, noticed my gaze, and nodded politely. I'm fine, brother Lawshan. Ziyu shook her head and then introduced Lawshan to me. Her childhood sweetheart, later moved to another place halfway. As I only knew Ziyu in junior high school, I naturally didn't know him. After introducing each other, I asked presumptuously, what superpowers do you have? Fire and lightning. Although Lawshan didn't know why I asked this, he still answered. Sure enough, thinking of Ziyu's skills, I realized it again. Since our vehicle was damaged, we were lucky to get on a military vehicle, and they were just about to return to the base after completing their mission. The third vehicle seemed to have their mission, my keen intuition told me. When I saw Lu Shen and Zhou Yu standing together and laughing again. Sorry, your heroine was saved by me before. I sighed with regret, and once again passed by Lu Shen with a face that I didn't mean to steal the male lead's performance opportunity. Zhou Yu held back her laughter and tugged at the corner of my clothes. The good cabbage was pushed by the pig that suddenly appeared. Lord Zhou. Shen waved his hand to show that he didn't care, but his tight fist betrayed himself, and I quickly slipped away. Along the way, when I encountered zombies, I was the first to jump out of the car and pinch the zombie's temple with my small space. As I pinched enough temples, my space gradually became larger. Although there is still a big difference compared to Zhou Yu, hard work pays off. Facing my unique skills, a lot of people envied and hated me. I always waved my hands to show that I didn't care and then secretly pricked up my ears to listen to their envy. The journey was smooth and we finally arrived at the base. 1-2 After checking my body to confirm that I was not infected, I registered my skills and my parents and I were assigned to a 2-story villa under the suspicious eyes of the registrar. Ah! I can finally lie down. I fell straight on the bed. I could only stay in the car for 3 weeks. I cherished lying on the soft big bed for the first time and fell asleep with the quilt in my arms. When I woke up, it was dark. I lifted the quilt that my mother had covered me with at some point and went downstairs. There was delicious food on the table, and I ate it voraciously. After living in the base for a few days, I found that it was still like before the end of the world. Everyone had their own job. My mother went to the hospital because of the healing system and specialized in treating the injured. My dad joined the security team because of his dual-element supernatural powers of earth and wood. In short, he was a gatekeeper. And I started farming. I was not outstanding in combat ability, and because of the special nature of my space, in order to maximize my value, I was assigned to the agricultural department. Those professors who were big names in agronomy and crop science said that I was born to farm. They gave me the seeds they researched and asked me to help them do experiments. I readily agreed. Anyway, it would not take much effort to complete it. The most important thing was to contribute to the people, and the pattern came up all of a sudden. My job was very easy, which was to record the growth cycle of fruits in the space. The flow rate of my space was very fast, but because it was my space, I could clearly analyze each stage. Zhou Yu and Lu Shen's relationship also stabilized. Zhou Yu was very capable and soon became the backbone of the base. When I came across delicious fruits and vegetables, I would ask for some seeds to plant myself, and then opened a supermarket in the base and became the boss. There is not much food shortage in the Doomsday, but fruits and vegetables are scarce. Each superpower and ordinary people can't get much. My supermarket is bartering. If there is really nothing I want, I will sell it to you if you work for me, but those who want to get something for nothing, get out of the way. I have improved the living standards of the entire base by my own efforts, and I am also happy to be leisurely and live a comfortable life. The first zombie wave has passed, and it is indeed much safer in the base. After that, we experienced several more, but fortunately there are many capable people and righteous people, and no major problems occurred. When I was happily acting as the boss of my supermarket, some problems occurred in the laboratory. I heard that the zombies brought by Lu Shen's army escaped. I sat in the middle of a pile of fruits and vegetables and ate this melon with relish. 1-3 in the evening, I packed up my shop and prepared to go home, and suddenly a figure rushed into the house quickly. It's going to close today, come back tomorrow. I thought it was someone who came to buy something, and I turned my back to the person and fiddled with the things I just exchanged today and spoke lazily. Hulu, Hulu. The person didn't respond to me, but just panted heavily, as if something was stuck in his throat. I turned around suddenly. Well, a zombie-like zombie, but not so ugly. Eating the watermelon on my head. Right. I immediately activated my ability and clamped the space on the zombie's temple. Just when I was about to clamp it hard, the zombie picked up the half watermelon I had cut before. Crack, crack. I didn't react for a while, and a big doubt appeared in my little head. When did the zombies change to eating fruits? For a long time, I looked at the zombies tied up by me and was silent. This zombie has pretty eyebrows, a straight nose, and a handsome face. When I looked down and saw his lips of appropriate thickness, I smiled. Well, but I will not succumb to his beauty. I immediately reported to the leader. You are a kid with a high level of ideological awareness. You know to report in time. I met the leader of the base. The leader looked at me with approval and said, however, after our research, this zombie is a little special. It doesn't eat people. The laboratory has extracted relevant samples. Maybe after a while, the world will be peaceful. When I went home, I was carrying a burden behind me. Yes, the zombie was entrusted to me by the leader. The reason is that although the zombie will not actively hurt people, the problem of eating still needs to be solved. Before leaving, he handed me the zombie's ID card. Looking at the ID card in my hand, Shen Soy, 25 years old. I keenly sensed a hint of conspiracy. Could it be that the leader knew that the zombie liked to eat the food grown in my space and didn't want to exchange food for him, so he did this? TSK, Black Heart. But this zombie is really good looking after being washed, and the most important thing is that it is well behaved. As a supermarket owner, I got a laborer for free, and no one dared to bother me anymore. Shen Soy, this zombie, actually has the ability of metal. I scratched my head and suddenly remembered what I said when I pointed my middle finger at the sky on the way to the base. I felt guilty. Shen Soy, 3 small golden beans for a small tomato. Since I found that his ability can exploit loopholes, I have been trying my best to get the wall of Shen Sui. No. 2. Shen Sui's IQ has grown rapidly. Although his articulation is not very clear, I understand what he means. 3 golden beans for 2 small tomatoes, and he knows how to bargain. Okay, this time it's a bargain for you. I reluctantly agree because you are good looking. I pretended to feel pain and handed Shen Sui 2 small tomatoes. Shen Sui's eyes narrowed with joy. Hiss, you even fool zombies. Lu Shen, next to Ziyu, looked at me with an expression that said you can fool zombies. Don't bother yourself. If you keep talking nonsense, I will snatch your Ziyu from you, I said viciously. Ziyu and Lu Shen are officially together, but I still find fault with him from time to time. Who let him take away my favorite girlfriend? Time flies. Shen Sui has grown from being fooled by me to being unable to fool him anymore. However, he still sends me little gold beans every day. Woohoo, it's really not in vain. As time goes by, dawn is coming. 1 for the serum that completely eliminates the zombie virus has been developed and will be sprayed nationwide by helicopter in 1 day. After learning the news, I looked at Shen Sui in front of me with a little sadness. Once the serum is widely sprayed, the fate of the zombies is self-evident. Although I have been with Shen Sui for only a few months, I still can't bear it. I opened my mouth several times, but I didn't know what to say. It's alright. Shen Sui saw my sadness and comforted me. I saw that he didn't understand what the serum meant, so I stood up and rushed out the door to the leader's room. Without the rapid spraying of the serum, more people outside the base will lose their lives. They can't wait. The sample was extracted from him. He saved the whole world. Shen Sui is a good boy. He will understand. The leader, who always had a stern face, seemed to be 10 years older, and tears welled up in his eyes. I didn't say anything else and went home in despair. As long as Shen Sui came into contact with the air, he would die, but what better way was there? I tried to wrap Shen Sui with my own space, just like I clamped Shen Sui's temple that year, but it didn't work. When I woke up the next day, I felt a dull pain in my head. I turned over and got out of bed to look for him. There was no trace of Shen Sui in the villa. Shen Sui was gone, and there was a delicate big box next to my bed. I opened it, and inside was a full of golden beans and a note with crooked handwriting, "Don't be sad." In order not to make me sad, he left the base early. It turned out that he knew what the serum meant. In the countdown of the serum spraying, I looked at the sky and listened to the cheers of relief from the crowd. I suddenly wondered if he would lie in the endless fields, waiting for the scenery to slowly pass through him, or maybe like a drop of water merging into the sea, his soul returned to the sky. He still stayed in this cold winter, not waiting for this new and different spring. The zombies disappeared, and the nightmare that lasted for more than 2 years finally dissipated. I handed over most of the golden beans to the country. It will take a long time to make up for the destroyed buildings and the broken economy, and I can only do my meager strength. I took the remaining small golden beans and continued to run my small supermarket. People came and went, and the order gradually returned to normal. People got married and started businesses. It seemed that the previous Doomsday had never come. I quietly guarded my small supermarket, with a lot of thoughts in my mind. Humans, this magical species, as long as they find that there is still fire and hope, even if there is only a trace, they can set the prairie on fire. I hope that humans can always be safe and happy, smooth and worry-free, and get what they want. Extra am Shen Sui. I don't know how long I slept. I was awakened by the sound of rain. A drop of rain dripped through the stone wall and dripped on my mouth. I sat up, and then walked out of the dim cave. I saw the vibrant spring, the breeze, gathered the corners of my clothes, blew my hair, and the past passed through my mind like a movie. That night I looked at Yi Ji's red eyes, trying to save me again and again. I couldn't bear to knock her out, and took advantage of the night to leave the base. I had one night to see the scenery along the way again. I walked through the surrounding fields and the sea. It's a pity that I only have one night, and the scenery along the way is not beautiful. However, tomorrow, the world will become another one. In a world without zombies, everyone will be very happy. I know that Yi Ji went to find my father for me, and I saw her sad look. I pretended to know nothing. Maybe it could alleviate her sadness a little bit. Instead of dissipating beside her, I might as well go farther and farther. When the serum mixed with air penetrated into my body, I felt the tingling in my body. The cells belonging to the zombies or something kept clamoring in my body. Fortunately, Yi Ji didn't see it, otherwise she would cry red eyes. My consciousness gradually blurred. I hope that the clever and money-loving little girl will be safe and happy in the days to come. I didn't expect that there would be a day when I would open my eyes again. Maybe the serum sample was extracted from my body, and I returned to normal after sleeping for a long time. I walked and stopped along the way, looking at the vibrant spring with my own eyes. In that small supermarket, I saw her. The little girl who was bored and eating snacks, half lying on the recliner. I thought, how can I coax her to give me fruit? How can I trick her? Then I will exchange my little golden beans. End.